Welcome everybody to the Society of Architectural Historians annual lecture. I'm Maurice Howard. I've just taken over as president from Malcolm Ayres after his distinguished period of office. This is the occasion where we hear our annual lecture, but before that we have our annual awards to make, and tonight there are 5 people that we need to reward and congratulate on achievements this year in architectural history. 20 years ago, I was chairman of this society, and one of the things I noticed coming back to do more for the society now is the enormous amount we're now doing for the early end of the profession, for students with bursaries and for people beginning their careers. And now, of course, we also support 3 PhD students, and that's thanks to the bequests and legacies we've had and the generosity of members of the society, and one other particular way that that's been made possible, which I'll come to later on in these preliminaries. So it's with great pleasure that the first award I want to make tonight is the James Morris Essay, a new award we're making, which has been very kindly given by Dr. Simon Morris in memory of his grandfather, who worked in South Africa with Herbert Baker. And it's an essay in the area of British colonial and post-colonial architecture. And the recipient of this award is someone whom I heard give a splendid paper at our recent symposium earlier this year, and who is doing a PhD at Cambridge in the School of Architecture. And the subject of her essay, which has won the prize, is Camps in Mandatory Palestine, the Emergence of Temporary Architecture as a Spatio-Political Instrument. So would Irit Katz Feigis please come forward to receive her prize? The other award we give at this stage is to the best essay on architectural history that has emerged in the past year. And the award this year goes to a DPhil student at Oxford in the area of architectural drawing, and particularly medieval architectural drawing and the quadrivium in the Romanesque period. The title of his essay was Medieval Architectural Drawing, and please would Karl Kinsella come forward to receive his award. We now come to the Alice David Hitchcock Award, which is given each year to the best book on architectural history in the areas of either writing by British authors or on the subject of British or continental architecture. The winner this year is Alex Bremner. And his book is called Imperial Gothic, Religious Architecture and High Anglican Culture in the British Empire, circa 1840 to 1870, published in 2013 by Yale University Press. This ambitious and meticulously researched study charts the desire driven by Anglicanism and the ecclesiological movement in particular to improve church architecture in Britain's so-called colonial possessions. Focusing on the period from the 1840s to 1870, it demonstrates the meaning, mission and ministry of architecture in high Anglican thought, and argues convincingly that ecclesiastical architecture was central to the colonial project throughout the non-European world, from North America to India and to Australasia. lucidly written Imperial Gothic balances analysis and narrative to produce an insightful account that enlivens a period and subject sometimes perceived to be quintessentially English and populated by pious clerics. Instead, though, through Bremner's eyes, we see churchmen, and significantly their wives, as international pioneers, literally building the Anglican Church in often hostile physical environments and acting not simply as evangelists, but moreover as architects. The geographical scope of this book is undeniably impressive. It has occasioned painstaking research in multiple countries and has brought to light a wealth of new material from far-flung archives. For its accomplishment in all these quarters, the Alice David Hitchcock Committee is delighted to present the medal to Imperial Gothic. Alex.
I think I'm expected to say a few words, but I promise I'll keep this brief. I've never done this before, but thank you, Morris, for that very kind citation. I am, of course, extremely delighted to receive this award tonight and the recognition that it brings. I think words can hardly describe just how I feel, but I guess that almost goes without saying. If I were to try to sum it up, I would do so, I think, in the following way. For me, it has been a journey, an incredibly long one, has to be said, not just, as many of you will know and appreciate, in researching and writing the book, but also, and more personally, the journey I have taken myself from the back blocks of rural Australia, where, as a young lad, I attended a one-room primary school with only 5 pupils, one of whom was my twin brother, and where our playground was literally the bush. To be standing here before you this evening to receive this award, it is, I think in its own small way, a miracle, and I know that many at home would agree. So I am truly honoured, I can't tell you, and as someone who is a keen supporter and advocate of the Society and its causes, I shall treasure it all the more. So thank you again to the Society, and thank you especially to the Paul Mellon Centre for Studies in British Art and Yale University Press for making the book possible in the first place. Without their support, their dedication and their professionalism, it certainly would not have been realised in the form that it has. Thank you.
Please can we have a sequel on the CMS and the Evangelical Foundation for the next 20 years of your life?
Thank you, Alex. From time to time, the Society honours 2 of its distinguished and long-serving members with Honorary Patron membership. And there are 2 people we wish to honour tonight. One of the things about all our learned and honourable societies of all ages and survivals is that on the one hand there's statutes and constitutions and it has events and whatever, but they're also, of course, societies of people who get together for a common interest. And though both our people tonight are people we can honour, and I will do so briefly, their scholarship and the reward, the things that they've done for the profession in their professional lives, it's also their service to the people in this fellowship here of the Society of Architectural Historians that I particularly want to highlight. The first of our 2 honorary fellows tonight is John Newman, who worked for many years here at the Courtauld Institute, though I first got to know him, of course, in the old days in Portman Square, which some of you in this room of a certain age will remember. He served as deputy director for a while here and taught generations of students. two things about, as it were, service to us all. I think in one way, amongst John's wide distinguished scholarship, his many articles and writing and lectures on Inigo Jones in particular, and other aspects of the great history of English classical architecture, we all tour the country with the Pevsners in our hands. Nicholas Pevsner himself is supposed to have said that he felt that John's contributions to that series were amongst the best that there were. He wrote the original edition of the volume on Dorset, and of course did the two volumes on Kent, which he said he would never revisit, but then revisited, and both those are now published. In the past year there have been two great occasions to celebrate the second edition of those volumes. But also, on top of that, he has staked out, as it were, the great places and counties of Wales in completely new volumes, charting new areas about which many of us knew very little. And going to huge areas of Wales now with those books in hands has been a great pleasure to us and a great insight. And it is very much one of the themes tonight. We've already had something about Anglicanism going out of this country. One of the other things I think that is a theme tonight is also about, let's call them these various island countries off the northwest coast of Europe, because we all have different traditions, but they are things that we share throughout England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland. But the last thing I also want to say about John is that, of course, in this room tonight, including myself, are many of his former PhD students, and his service to us, not just in expert supervision, but in introducing us to societies like this. It was John who said to me, go to the Antiquaries Library, this is how you go in there, do this and do that. And of course, some of us end up doing all sorts of things in that place. He has really helped us all make our careers and kept up our interest in architectural history. So, John, I'd be very grateful if you'd step down and shake my hand as a way of all of us thanking you tonight. Our other honorary patron member amongst these two past presidents of this society is Alistair Rowan. Alistair Rowan taught for many years in Edinburgh, where not just in the department, as it were, there, but later as principal of the Edinburgh College of Art, now subsumed into a great new conglomerate in the modern order of things. But he did extraordinary things in that job, and he was the first professor of architectural history at University College Dublin. So great, again, service to teaching. Amongst his many published volumes, of course, it's now a quarter of a century. I can remember the point when it came out. His great catalogue on the Robert and James Adam drawings at the V&A, amongst several publications on the works of those great architects. That came out in 1988, and like John, he's also participated in the building of these countries off the northwest coast. Actually, I'm avoiding that word British tonight, having just been up in Scotland. I'm very sensitive to doing things in the right ways. Because of his work on two of the volumes of the buildings of Northern Ireland. And in terms of just his service to this and other societies, many things that Alistair has done over many years, but most especially, not only because of the on-hand teaching, guiding, leading, inspiration he has given, but also the huge, substantial sums that we have gained from the way in which he's run them, as well as what we've learned from them. In recent years, he's done many, many trips for the Society to some of the great cities of Italy. And many people in this room have been on those trips, have learned from them. And I've only ever done one for the Society in my time, to the Loire, and that I had lots of help from Claire Gapper and Rosalis Cooper. My goodness, what a lot of work these things are, though one enjoys them enormously. So we're greatly indebted, again, at this people relationship of getting us all together and knowing things, to the work that Alistair has done over many years. So thank you very much for that, Alistair. Please come forward and shake my hand.
Well, I have to answer for John and myself for this great honour which has been done to both of us. I first joined the Society in the summer of 1960, 53 years ago, at the suggestion of Peter Willis. So I suppose the distinction you have given me this evening could be said to relate to long service. John Newman has paid long service as well, but he's also contributed great scholarship, and it's a pleasure to find myself honoured on the same slate as John. There are two of us who are receiving the honour today, and I am reminded of two great men from the past. First of all, Nicholas Pevsner, who many of us called NP, and Harold Macmillan, who I felt sorry for as a second-year student in Edinburgh University when this man that none of us had ever heard of appeared to drive up the Royal Mile, and there were very few people cheering him because he had just become Prime Minister. Well, both NP and Harold Macmillan are people who come to my mind this evening. In the year in which Nicholas was awarded the Alice David Hitchcock Medallion, as we called it in those days, he was also awarded the Gold Medal of the RIBA. And some of you may remember when we awarded him the medallion, NP got up here and said, "You may think that in receiving the gold medal of the RIBA, I have done better than receiving the Alice David Hitchcock Medallion from this society. But let me tell you, I looked up the Oxford English Dictionary today, and the definition of a medallion is a big medal." Now, in a similar way, Harold Macmillan was asked once, he is the events dear boy man, and he was asked at a dinner to defend his role as Chancellor of a great university. "Oh, my dear boy," Macmillan said, "that's easy. No university can operate without an efficient and an effective Vice-Chancellor. And you can't have a Vice-Chancellor without a Chancellor." I thought of that, and I suppose the SAHGB cannot expect to have an efficient, an effective, and an active membership unless it has a few patron members. So you have John and myself currently to refer to, and it is a great honour that you have done us, and thank you for it.